When I think about NASCAR's relationship with the fans since I've been watching the sport in the last 20 years, I think two adages, one that's pretty commonly known and one that is very commonly edited, come to mind when it comes to that. And that is, one, don't abandon your core audience chasing after another one. And two, if it ain't broke, bash the hell out of it with a hammer. And in my opinion, NASCAR has done that in a lot of ways. Now, they, in recent years, have mended a lot of those bridges, but it still takes time, and there are some major hurdles still to get past. And one of them is getting horsepower back in the cars. And it's not just fans who are upset with it. A lot of engine builders are upset with it. A lot of people in media want it changed. And pretty much every driver universally wants more horsepower. So when I and many others saw the quote that Steve Phelps had from a recent NBC Sports article, I gotta say, one, it was disappointing, but two, it was just disheartening. And listen, I give Phelps a lot of credit. He is very open with the fans and very open, especially at races, to be able to talk to. And I give him tons of credit for that. It is way better than what we've had with Brian France, but there still are some steps to take. And this, in my opinion, is a step backwards. Thanks to Avery on Twitter for really making this more widespread in the online space. And this is what Phelps had to say. I don't think the answer is more horsepower, because more horsepower is expensive, Phelps said. If you ask a driver what's going to solve it, they're going to say, give me more horsepower. It's a thing. I'm not a driver, but I've listened to enough drivers, and that's their solution. So, question is that really what it is? I don't know. I think that some gearing things that we're looking at as well. Some shifting things. So, to be fair, I will give him this. I do think that shifting is part of the problem. And to be fair, also, the short tracks and road courses, Martinsville, North Wilkesboro, Sonoma, Watkins Glen, you name it, they have struggled because of this, as it's just more difficult now to get around people, as even if you have to commonly do the last resort of just bumping them out of the way, you really can't, because they'll just downshift and then get back up shifting to get off the corner better. And that's a big problem. I do think it'll help with the current engine package, but now you then have everyone at a low RPM range, and it's really hard to get past people unless they make mistakes still. They're all running the same speed, and we're back to the 550 package, which I don't think any of us want either. When I look at all of this and what's been done, I think a big part of it is, well, every driver's right. The horsepower is the underlying problem when it comes to a lot of these tracks. Some, like the intermediates, have done better. It's kind of a mix of what the 750 was at those tracks, as well as the 550, but it's kind of the best of both, and you're able to have these cars drive past each other and also go into different lanes, whatever it may be. It's really fun to watch a Charlotte race, a Kansas race. Hell, it's almost fun to watch Texas now. But it's really difficult to watch fan favorites like Wilkesboro and Martinsville. And every driver wants it. They want it. Engine builders say it wouldn't be difficult or that much more expensive. It would just be a bit more time consuming to add horsepower, 50 or 60 horsepower to the already 670. So you're looking at 720 to 730. We're about where we would be had this been, the Gen 6 era at the end, when we had 750 at a bunch of different tracks. To disregard the drivers after years of saying this is wrong, in my opinion. And it's been the same thing, not since 2018, but since 2014. I remember when they were doing tests for the Gen 6 at Michigan, and they had a high horsepower one with a small blade. And that's the one all the drivers wanted. They said that's the one. We're faster, handling matters more, driver input matters more, and instead they went to 750 the next year and the racing suffered. And from 2015 to 2018, it was 750 horsepower. Then we went down to 550 for a few years. Then a mix for a year of 750 and 550 as a band-aid. NASCAR was saying there'd be a new engine coming around that's specifically built for 550. Well, that didn't happen with the next-gen car. Actually, until about December of the year before the next-gen came out, they were still going to go 550 with this car before drivers and teams finally got them to twist their arms and go to around 650, 670, wherever they're at now. That's also another question I have. Where the hell is that new engine they've been talking about? I don't even care if it has hybridization in it, because that would probably add horsepower, and the engines would be specifically designed for 600 or 700 horsepower. I don't even think fans at this point are asking for 900. We're just asking for more. And that is the most disheartening part of all of this, is there are options, and many in the industry have said there are options, but those atop are not listening because they want to focus on other things. It is their fault for the rule changes that they made that put them in this situation. It is not everybody else's fault. They didn't all of a sudden just cut a third of the horsepower off these cars. Of course, there would be changes that needed to be made with more horsepower. That's why I get them not committing in August of this year to 2024 having an added 100 horsepower, because for one, Goodyear's going to have to make a bunch of new tires, brakes are going to have to be changed, as well as a ton of other different parts to really kind of assimilate to a new horsepower package with the engines. I get that. And the tires at Martinsville in the fall were a step in the right direction. But overall, this strategy of NASCAR to cut costs at almost every turn, it kind of reminds me, and I know people hate the stick and ball references, but it reminds me of a football team playing not to lose. And NASCAR right now is not playing to win, they're playing not to lose. And you know what happens to teams that play not to lose? They usually give up that dagger touchdown at the end. Prevent defense, no matter if it's in business or sport, never works. And at this point, that's what it feels like we're going towards. Why do they not want to go to more horsepower? I get it. Maybe it is more expensive in other avenues, or maybe it's more time consuming. I think that's it too. I also think some of the OEMs that they think would come in may have said that before, but which ones are coming in? There is no news whatsoever. And even if we started hearing about, say, Honda as an example, or someone else wanting to come in, it would take at least half a decade, and we're not even hearing about anybody. We heard about Dodge last year, and that's where the electric rumor came in, but there's been nothing since then. And at this point, from a fan's perspective, honestly, the cool factor from a lot of these cars are gone. These cars are indestructible because they're basically neutered down. And William Byron has even said that. Look at a couple of these clips from the past and tell me they don't sound, look, and feel cool, which is something that is a huge selling point for auto racing.
It does, but like Dale's talking about, what the hubs, the running gear, the grease in the transmission, rear end, all of that stuff being cool to start with, it needs to be at operating temperature, and sometimes it takes it a little bit longer.
Through turn 4, like you talked about a couple of cars ago, it's going to make the difference. 11th for Logano, still on it for his second lap.
How about the Fords?
Ambrose just kind of locked over there.
2010 into turn 3.
Tracking number 1 for Marcus Ambrose. Can he hold on to it? Coming out of 4, goes all the way down to the apron across the stripe. Ambrose goes 2:03.241.
He was fast in practice, 4th quick. He can pick up a little bit here.
Yep. I don't know if the track picked up or we just got to the guys that were ready to try to go win this pole. Going to need a big corner here.
Yeah, he's already a 10th and a half off. Hard to make that up in this end. He's coming back though. He might.
I don't know. We'll see.
Got it. It doesn't.
Possible victory. Mark Martin would love to be on the pole, wouldn't you, Mark?
Boy, I sure would. I tell you what, there's no better place to start than out front at clean air.
Well, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is on track. The format for today, 2 laps on the clock. The fastest of them will determine your starting position, or if you'll have a starting position in the 11th Brickyard 400. Earnhardt Jr. to complete his first lap. We talked with him earlier. He was 37th fastest in practice.
The thing about more horsepower, in my opinion, just to finish off, is that it doesn't necessarily mean the car with the most horsepower is going to win the race. Now, why do I say this? Do I have any basis in it? Well, yes, I do. Bill Elliott won the Brickyard 400 back in 2002. And in winning that, you would think that he probably had the highest horsepower car, had all the best gadgets, all of this and that. But what is crazy to think of is that his Dodge had less horsepower than all of the cars in the top 5 he finished ahead of. It's because the driver has to be able to handle the car better, and it's more in the driver's hands the higher up in horsepower you go with it. Yeah, handling's a bit of an issue, but with these cars, it takes a very skilled driver to drive a high horsepower, bad handling car. And I think that's also what I want to get to. As a fan, I want to watch these drivers get challenged every week. I don't want it to look like a slot car race because that's boring. It just is. Everyone is going to be plastered to the track, and then they barely have something go wrong and break loose. I want them to struggle the whole damn time. I don't care how comfortable they are in that car. That's what I want to get to as a fan. Why do they not want to go back to this? I think honestly because it's too time consuming and they're looking for quick fixes. That's my opinion. But now I want to pass it on to you. Do you want the big motor back with the small blade, or do you want to just keep on keeping on right now? Do you think NASCAR is doing well? Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support. And until next time, have a good one.